Today, we're diving into a fascinating corner of American coinage, the Roosevelt dime. Specifically, we're talking about 3 Roosevelt dime-era coins that have captured the attention of collectors everywhere. These aren't just ordinary 10-cent pieces. They're the kind of coins that make a numismatist's pulse race a little faster. So buckle up, because by the time we're done, you might just find yourself double-checking your change jar at home. 1957 Roosevelt dime coin without mint mark and fine condition. This particular dime is a piece of history in more ways than one. First, let's set the scene. Franklin D. Roosevelt had passed away in 1945, and within that same year, the U.S. Mint decided to honor him with a new dime design. The choice was symbolic. Roosevelt had been a strong advocate for the March of Dimes, a campaign dedicated to fighting polio. By placing his portrait on the 10-cent coin, the Mint tied his legacy directly to the coin that had played such an important role in raising funds for public health. The 1957 Roosevelt dime was minted at 2 locations, Philadelphia and Denver. Those struck at Philadelphia carried no mint mark, while the Denver coins had a small D on the reverse. This is where our subject comes in. A 1957 Roosevelt dime without a mint mark might sound ordinary, because technically, all Philadelphia coins of the era had no mint mark. But here's where the error factor sneaks in. Some of these 1957 dimes show anomalies that set them apart, from double die obverse varieties where lettering or numbers are faintly duplicated, to striking errors that left incomplete details on Roosevelt's portrait. When you find such an error in fine condition, meaning the coin has moderate wear but still retains all its major details, you're looking at a piece that bridges historical value and collector intrigue. Design-wise, the obverse of the 1957 dime features John R. Sinek's portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt, facing left. Above his head runs the word Liberty, while the motto, "In God We Trust," sits neatly to the left, just below his chin. The date, 1957, is positioned to the right, crisp and evenly spaced when struck correctly, though on certain error coins, you might notice anomalies such as partial digits or distortions. On the reverse, the design showcases a torch in the center, flanked by an olive branch to the left and an oak branch to the right, symbolizing peace and strength. The inscriptions, United States of America, and E Pluribus Unum, surround the image, along with the coin's denomination, 1 dime. The mintage numbers for the Philadelphia issue were quite high, over 75 million coins, which means most 1957 no-mint mark dimes are common. But here's the thing, error coins, by their very nature, are rare within that sea of uniform pieces. A die clash, a missing detail, or a misaligned strike can turn an ordinary coin into a standout example. For collectors, this rarity factor is crucial. The market value of such a coin depends heavily on the type of error and the coin's condition. A standard fine-condition 1957 dime without a mint mark might fetch only a modest price, maybe $1 or $2. But if that coin features a recognized error, such as a clear double die obverse or a striking misalignment, the price can jump dramatically. It's not unusual for certain varieties to sell for $50 or more, even in circulated grades. One particularly intriguing error from this year involves partial collar strikes, where the coin wasn't fully seated in the collar die when struck. This results in a slightly stretched or misshapen rim, which to the casual observer might look like damage but to the trained eye is a sign of a mint-made anomaly. Another involves die cracks, raised lines on the surface of the coin caused by fractures in the die itself. These can snake across Roosevelt's portrait like a faint scar, adding both visual interest and collectible value. And then there's the historical appeal. The late 1950s marked the tail end of the era when U.S. coins were made of 90% silver. Every 1957 dime, error or not, contains roughly 0.07234 troy ounces of silver. In today's bullion market, that alone gives it an intrinsic value above face value. But combine that silver content with an error and you've got a coin that appeals to both silver stackers and serious numismatists. In fine condition, the details of Roosevelt's hair are still visible, though flattened in places from circulation. The fields, the flat areas around the design, show some wear and minor scratches, but the lettering remains clear. For many collectors, fine condition strikes a good balance between affordability and the satisfaction of owning a piece that still carries the character of its original design. The collector interest in the 1957 no-mint mark Roosevelt dime-era coins is sustained by a few key factors: rarity within the mintage, the silver content, the historic association with Roosevelt and the March of Dimes, and the sheer charm of an accidental imperfection. Even seasoned collectors who already own pristine, mint-state examples of common dates will keep an eye out for these quirky survivors of the minting process. They remind us that even in an industrialized, high-volume minting operation, the human element, and the possibility of error, is always present. 1982 Roosevelt dime coin with mint mark P and fine condition. This coin marks a very specific and notable moment in U.S. coinage history, a moment when a small letter on a small coin made a very big statement. The year 1982 was the first time in more than 150 years that the Philadelphia Mint consistently used a P mint mark on circulating coinage. Up until then, Philadelphia had mostly gone without one, except for a brief experiment on the Susan B. Anthony dollar in 1979. So the 1982 Roosevelt dime with its small but significant P mint mark is more than just a coin, it's the embodiment of a policy shift in minting tradition. By 1982, the silver content in dimes had long been eliminated. 1965 was the last year for 90% silver dimes. Instead, the 1982 Roosevelt dime was struck in the copper-nickel-clad composition we still see today, a pure copper core with outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel. Design-wise, the obverse still carried Sinek's portrait of Roosevelt. The date, 1982, appears to the right of his neck, and directly above that date sits the P mint mark, the first time on a Roosevelt dime from Philadelphia. The reverse maintained the same torch, olive branch, and oak branch arrangement, with United States of America and E pluribus unum above and the denomination 1 dime below. Mintage numbers for the 1982 P dime were enormous, over 1 billion coins. But within that massive output, minting errors occurred. One of the most famous from this year is the no P dime, where the mint mark was accidentally omitted. While our focus is the standard P mint mark in fine condition, the existence of that famous error makes all 1982 dimes from Philadelphia worth a closer look. In fine condition, the coin shows moderate wear but retains all major details. The market value for a standard fine condition 1982 P dime is generally face value, but with errors like off-center strikes, broad strikes, or die cracks, values can rise into the tens of dollars. Historically, the P mint mark's introduction represented a turning point. After decades of Philadelphia coins being anonymous, they could now be distinguished like coins from Denver and San Francisco. Even without a major error, the 1982 P is a milestone date in the series. It's part of the broader story of modernization at the U.S. Mint, a shift toward more consistent mint mark usage, and a reminder that sometimes a single letter can change the numismatic significance of an entire year. 1993 Roosevelt dime coin with mint mark D and fine condition. By the early 1990s, the Roosevelt dime had been in production for nearly 50 years. The 1993 D from the Denver Mint carries the familiar portrait of Roosevelt on the obverse with the date 1993 to the right and the D mint mark above it. The reverse features the same torch, olive branch, and oak branch design that had become an enduring symbol of the series. The mintage for the 1993 D was over 700 million coins. At such volumes, errors are uncommon but not unheard of. Misaligned dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, and debris-filled dies could all produce collectible varieties. In fine condition, the coin shows moderate wear, with Roosevelt's hair smoothed on the high points and the copper core sometimes visible along the rim. The market value for a standard 1993 D dime in fine condition is minimal unless it carries a notable error. Off-center strikes with visible date and mint mark, double strikes, or dramatic die breaks can bring in significant premiums. By 1993, minting technology was advanced, but even with precision machinery, the possibility of human oversight and mechanical malfunction kept the hunt for errors alive. For collectors, the 1993 D is part of the charm of building a complete date and mint set. It represents the steady continuation of the series into the modern era, a time when dramatic errors were rarer but all the more exciting when they appeared. It's a reminder that even in the most routine year, a coin can carry a hidden story, if you look closely enough. And that's what unites these three Roosevelt dimes, 1957 no mint mark, 1982 P, and 1993 D. Each one, in its own way, captures a moment in the history of American coinage, and each has the potential, through error or anomaly, to become something far more valuable than its face value. Whether you're a seasoned numismatist or a curious beginner, the lesson is the same, the treasure is in the details. And sometimes, the smallest coin in your pocket can hold the biggest surprise. If you enjoyed this journey through history, design, and numismatic mystery, make sure to join me again for the next episode of the Coins Numismatic Series. Keep your eyes sharp, your magnifying glass handy, and never stop searching, because you never know when the next great find will land in your hands. Until next time, happy collecting.